Sedaj v bistvu zaključujemo s tem našim uvodnim delom.
So this is the end of the first section, and we will begin with the presentation by Mr. Robert Tekavec, the head of Juvenile Crime Section at the Criminal Police Directorate of the General Police Directorate. Let me provide you a short presentation. He is head of Juvenile Crime Section. He has more than 20 years experience in police. He has been active in the area of child protection. He is now head of Juvenile Crime Section, so he provides assistance in investigating crime, cooperation with national and foreign NGOs. He also takes care of the transfer of knowledge between the investigators. And on top of this, he's also the national coordinator of impact activities in the area of child sexual abuse. Mr. Tekavec has also been actively engaged in co-organizing these conferences. So the conference of e-abuse, which is organized by Spletna Oko. He will be talking about the international cooperation of law enforcement in investigations of online sexual abuse of children. Mr. Tekavec, the floor is yours. Good morning. I would first like to thank the first speakers at this conference for giving their presentation and highlighting the importance of the fight against sexual abuse of children, both at home and in the foreign arena. So a warm thank you to all of them. My presentation will also be dealing with international cooperation. I will try to provide you with a lot of information about the international cooperation, its importance, its different forms, and the like. As mentioned earlier, I will leave some time for your questions. If you will have many questions and we will not have enough time, we will provide you with the answers which will be posted on our website. I hope you can all see my presentation. When talking about international cooperation, it is about following the trends in the relevant field. And we need to emphasize that we're talking about borderless crime. This is a severe form of crime where perpetrators exchange the material on child sexual abuse and the abuse, or they prey on juveniles and children and manipulate children to get them to do something they would never do. So they get children to take off their clothes, to post their pictures, and also sometimes they meet with the perpetrators in real life. We all know how to speak foreign languages, and we are increasingly globally connected. And it is therefore even easier for perpetrators to work across borders. That is why we need to keep up with the perpetrators, and the investigators therefore need to collaborate. As mentioned by the previous speakers, such cooperation is not only important when talking about the aftermath of the crime, but also in the prevention. The internet changed our way of life, and it keeps on changing it with light speed. The internet has been adapted to children, adults in all the segments of their lives. We use it to communicate, to give our personal messages. We also use it to work, to communicate serious events, and also we use it for entertainment. for meeting new people, and also to keep connecting with the people that we already know, but we maybe do not have abilities or opportunities to meet them in real life. We use internet for work, for marketing, for advertisement, for playing games, and for studying, for paying the bills, to exchange. So we live with internet 24/7, and maybe we're not even aware of this fact. When you buy some groceries, you do it online. You can do it online. And access to internet is provided to nearly everyone. So we are really very connected. It would be probably very difficult to live the way we live now without the internet and the services. And last but not least, we would not be able to have today's event. The epidemic and all the measures that were linked to it made it even more evident to treat internet as a priority. Well, we do not only communicate only in Slovene, or we do not only buy Slovenian products. Quite the contrary, we are increasingly reaching out for foreign products and foreigners.
Z nekaterimi državami, tudi v regiji Zahodnega Balkana, imamo podoben jezik.
And when talking about the Western Balkans, we share or nearly share the same language, so we have many users that can communicate amongst themselves. On the other hand, our children, our minors are very, very competent when it comes to foreign languages and English, and also other languages, of course. So it is no longer difficult for the younger population to communicate with nearly everyone in the world. I have a teenage daughter, and she speaks English and also the languages of the Western Balkan countries. So it is really not difficult for her to connect to anyone. And also in our local region, we use these different languages to connect with people, our neighbors, for example. We are also increasingly linguistically connected with countries such as Russia and China. We no longer use only English apps. We also use other apps that are offered by the countries which have quite a different language to ours. But not only that, communication and exchange of information, thanks to the advanced internet, has become instant. Even though we communicate with someone across the other side of the world, it is very easy because the internet can be used by an increasingly bigger number of people.
The internet by itself is good, provides information, provides environment for free marketing. We can reach an enormous number of users. The internet offers the exchange of information, so many positive things. But there are also traps, a lot of fake information that some people use because of their personal advantages, because of the ability that the internet offers to share such information. So the access of the internet is allowed for everybody who's online. They can communicate, they can perform a transaction if, for example, an offender demands that from them. The internet also provides a certain level of anonymity. people who think alike can connect and find themselves quite fast. If we're talking about sexual abuse of children and the perpetrators who are active online, this makes it even easier for them. Somebody who is sexually attracted by children, will find it hard to somebody on the street who will share the same opinions or desires. And online, this is so much easier. Such people visit websites, they socialize in those places, and they found the people who think alike. If we summarize the negative and positive sides of internet, let me say this one more time. The positive sides, the internet is fast, it's accessible. We do not need specialized knowledge to use the internet. The internet offers the connectiveness. It provides a non-physical performance of activities. For example, if we cannot do something physically live because of certain measures during the pandemic. And of course, the negative sides, fake news, fake information, crimes that the offenders can perform. It is hard to trace such crimes, no censorship. And of course, a very negative side of the internet is when we investigate the crimes is the anonymity. Everybody can go online and browse anonymously, but if somebody is using this anonymity for negative activities, for crimes, this is of course a negative side of the internet. How do people use the internet for negative purposes? Today we are talking about sexual abuse of children. Such people look for their victims. The selection of children online is unlimited. They're extremely manipulative. Their purposes are negative, and they hide behind the websites, behind the information that are untrue. There are unlimited opportunities for such offenders, and the internet offers a global connection where they can remain anonymous and hidden. The victims are easier to be found. The offenders have the place where they can express their desires. In the darknet, on the internet, they can find people who think alike. They exchange videos, photographs, and abuse children. In the environment where they talk about children, they not only share their fantasies, but also about how they can be detected, how the law enforcement authorities can find them. So they exchange such information, advice, how to abuse a child, how to approach the child. And these perpetrators are worried, are only worried about themselves. They're not worried about the victims that they abuse. The offenders talk among themselves. They exchange materials depicting sexual abuse of children. And they also execute such acts. They create such materials, videos, photographs, and they publish such material. They have their own website where they publish such material, where they look for victims. And where they use the materials depicting sexual abuse through live streaming, where perpetrators can sexually abuse children by an offer of somebody else. So through the offer of somebody else. And they are, of course, paid for this. They have financial benefits from it. Sexual abuse online can also lead to physical sexual abuse. There was a survey conducted in the European environment that only a few hours after a minor has created a profile online, the offers for sexual exchange of materials, photos come. It is extremely scary. People who are not skillful in the communication have no control, have no limitations in accessing such websites, and the offenders are praying for children where they are present. They try to communicate. They are friendly. They are likable. And in this way, they get the attention of the children to use them for their own purposes. Because of the pandemic and the measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19, the children were exposed to the internet even more. They spent time at home, alone, and a period of lockdown where everybody has to stay at home to contain the spread of the virus. The children were forced to educate online, to socialize online. And this stays with the children, and long after the pandemic will be over, the children will still spend more time online than before the epidemic hit. Smart devices, access to internet is provided to more and more children, and the worrying part of that is that the children have uncontrolled access to smart devices, especially younger children, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and even younger. Some children own the smart devices, smartphones, tablets, but they lack the knowledge how to use a smartphone in a safe way, how to browse, how to use an application in a safe way. And on the other hand, they have unlimited access to contents online. Those contents aren't censored, and especially they are not appropriate for their age. There are offenders preying on those children, but also these children can access pornography alone. And for younger children, this is completely inappropriate and impacts their further development. And when we are talking about the adjustment to COVID-19 pandemic, also the perpetrators have adjusted. They strengthened their activities online. Those who were abusing children physically, traveling into third world countries where they could abuse children, they were prevented from doing so because of the measures to curb the COVID-19. So the prohibition of public assemblies and so on led them to go online and perform such actions online. As I already mentioned before, they have unlimited selection of children online, children who lack the knowledge, who are naive, who have no control from the side of the parents, who are experiencing emotional crisis, who are an easy target for such perpetrators, who are, on the other hand, manipulative. They know how to communicate with children who are powerless. So our lives have changed dramatically, our rituals, our behaviors, because of the internet. The investigations of criminal offenses have changed too. We had to adopt because of the global element of the internet. Some crime has moved online a long time ago, and some crimes are moving online at this very moment. The perpetrators use every possible opportunity to for their revenge. And us investigators have to fight this. The perpetrators have the skills to use new technologies, to use technologies that hide their information, personal information. And to be able to be successful and efficient as investigators and to combat such crimes, we have to adapt fast, effectively, and constantly. We have to educate, we have to exchange experience in the domestic as well as international environment. Splitno Oko, today's conference, is an excellent opportunity to do so. A need to collaborate was shown to find channels for fast communications, for transfer of data, international connections, common trainings, educations, exchange of good practices, poor practices, find solutions for concrete cases, for improved legislation and preventive programs and activities. I can tell you that the Slovene police is an equal partner in the European and global area level in the field of combating and fighting the online abuse of children. And equal partners are also our friends from the Western Balkans, Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, Montenegro, who are now today present here and who also are part of the common joint campaign. We have common trainings, workshops where we exchange the practices, know-how, information and experiences. We are aware that alone we cannot fight the online abuse of children. I'm talking about the law enforcement sector, but also the private investigators who are active in this area of cyber exploitation of children. And as the previous, the initial speakers said, the schools, the kindergartens, people who are offering after-school activities, we are all responsible for the safety of our children in the physical environment as well as in the online environment. If we are talking about the law enforcement authorities worldwide, in Europe, and of course in the Western Balkans, we face challenges in the legislative as well as operative level. We use the same internet. We have similar problems, and we are dealing with similar criminal offenses. We also have joint investigations, and also the perpetrators act similarly everywhere. perpetrators in all countries have in common that they want to satisfy their sexual desires or financial desires by doing such actions. We have to help those who need additional help, especially it's our responsibility because we are part of the global community to help each other. Without international law enforcement collaboration, it is identify the victims and offenders, to arrest, to catch the perpetrators, to process the offenders. And without joint actions, it is not possible to remove such content of sexual abuse of children from the internet. We mentioned the impact campaign. It is a campaign within the European Council to fight the international crime. One of the priorities of severe organized crime is our common fight against sexual abuse of children online. We, from the Slovenian police, are active in many areas together with Europol, with the EU member states, European institutions, and other countries from the Western Balkan regions. We collaborate, we educate ourselves, we find and exchange information, we have prevention campaigns, operative actions. The details on such activities are internal and I cannot reveal them. However, they all strive to support, to promote international collaboration, to find, to share information, to conduct more activities together, to find solution to tackle individual challenges together. One of these activities that was already presented is the connection of the Western Balkan countries to fight the online abuse of children. Slovenia is leading the campaign together with the Croatian police authorities. We collaborate with Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and North Macedonia. One of the main activities of impact is our prevention campaign, Say No, that has started today and we hope will last for a long time. It's a prevention campaign to raise awareness of online abuse of children. It depicts two types of sexual abuse online. The first one is grooming of a boy. The girl sent her nude photos to the boy, and the boy started blackmailing her so that she needs to send him more of such nude pictures, or they will be published online. In Slovenia and all around the world, this is a common practice. And the second type of abuse is anonymous person presented as a girl grooming a boy and asking him to send nude pictures. The blackmail continues with financial blackmail, and in the background there is a criminal association aiming for more financial benefits. During my career, I talked to adults who have fallen into such trap, and imagine that an adult who is developed, who has the knowledge, can fall into such trap. Then imagine how easily this is for children. And as I said before, the purpose of this campaign, Say No, is wider the collaboration of the Western Balkan countries and some EU member states. The message is clear. The borders, the limitations of fighting the online abuse of children will not stop us. We will do everything in our power to save the victims, to catch the perpetrators, and provide actions against them.
It is, of course, not only important to have cooperation between the law enforcement authority, but also cooperation between the internet providers. A lot of reports come from internet providers in Slovenia, and they are owned by Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, Google, and other foreign providers.
Na tem mestu mogoče opozorilo vsem, ki uporabljajo
I would like to take the opportunity to inform all the internet users to all of those who are using child abuse material on these networks. Police will come to your doors. If you have children using internet early, please talk to them, remind them about the traps of the internet, because often it is the juveniles who can be offenders, maybe because they're trying to fulfill their sexual desires, maybe because they're revengeful or simply naive. And they may be not have the awareness that what they're doing is actually a crime. As mentioned earlier, sometimes children are only being childish and they want to explore. But we need to tell them that what they're doing can be considered as a crime, and that these children need to be aware of the consequences of their actions to other children. Because once a video is posted online, it is, of course, impossible to remove it from the internet. And every such posted image can have a long impact on the life of the victim, because this image will remain online for life. The connectedness among countries is also important in terms of the legislation. You need to know the rules of other countries and respect them, of course. But we will only know about foreign legislation if we work with organizations from other countries. The Western Balkan countries used to be in the same country. However, nowadays they have different types of legislation. So it is even more important to have this connection. This connection deals with the exchange of information. In order to have an efficient exchange of information, and in order to use such information in the court proceedings, it is, of course, important to know what is permissible and what is not in a certain country. Take, for example, the evidence procedure or the protection of victim. If, of course, you do not obey the legislation and the proceedings, of course, the proceeding can be unlawful and can fail. In some countries, in order to obtain an information, you only need to have an order of the police, whereas in others, you need to have a court order. And of course, you need to obey such conditions. If a country wants to request for information to another country, and the police needs to have the court order, of course, such information will need to have, such country will need to have all the relevant information so that the court order can be issued. If you don't have such evidence, then this will even prolong the entire procedure. So it is very important to really know all the details of the foreign legislation and to abide by it. Another important point is also collaboration with the European institutions such as Europol, which is our close partner, and Interpol, CEPOL. We have a lot of training through CEPOL, and we also work closely with the European Commission and other stakeholders. The said institutions provide us operative assistance. They also help us exchange information. They also process information if they are requested. They also have several workshops, such as the one mentioned by Mr. Kathal from Europol. That workshop included all the member states, and this is really a great asset in the fight against child sexual abuse. We save a lot of children through such collaboration and process the cases accordingly. The Slovenian police works closely with Europol, as mentioned, and also with other members through the impact activities and otherwise. We participate on meetings to exchange good practices and to talk about challenges. But you also work in terms of the operative collaboration. We are very successful, and we work closely with investigators of all the EU countries. The Slovenian police also collaborates with Interpol, with the Interpol database, on the basis of which we can successfully identify the relevant child, so that all the investigators can compile the entire image about the child. Such database can also prevent the same child to be included in the investigation of several countries. Together with the European Commission, we also have a lot of projects because the EU, of course, is based on joint measures. And the European Commission, of course, is charged with taking care that the European countries have the same types of measures. I would now like to talk to you about some practical examples about our cooperation. Because I want to show you how the collaboration between different law enforcement associations is carried out. The Slovenian police obtains reports through the Interpol from internet providers. And we receive reports from America through the platform offered by the National Center These are reports through different social networks, and so the police receives reports and then investigates them. The first case is therefore refers to obtaining reports from the internet service providers. And the police can see that the child sexual abuse material has been spread around the internet through the National Center platform for missing children. The reports are sent to Europol, and the Europol sends these to Slovenia. We started to investigate this in Slovenia. When analyzing the material, we discovered that some videos or images have not been seen anywhere else. So this is the first generation material. This means that the one who spread those photographs was also their author. So there is a great possibility that he or she is the actual offender. This, of course, called for swift action. Even more so because the child identity was unknown. In cooperation with the foreign security associations, we were able to identify the perpetrator, and we saw that the perpetrator had been abusing children for several years, but nobody in his surroundings knew about this. So the perpetrator was not reported. So the collaboration, this international collaboration, is very important. In this case, the abuse kept on going for several years and nobody knew about it. In my professional career, I discovered several victims that only reported the crime in their adult period. Because often children are afraid to confide in adults. And also in some cases, children do not want to recognize the perpetrator. Often the child abuse takes place behind closed doors. And it happens often when in close contact between children and adults, for example, in school. So it is very important to protect the child as early as possible. We know that some victims would not be discovered if there were no international cooperation, and that is a fact. Case 2 is about the criminalistic investigation of sexual abuse of children. When we discover that we have a connection between different perpetrators, both in Slovenia and abroad, they are active on different or the same platforms. And this platform enable an anonymity for the perpetrators. The EU institutions and the law enforcement authorities are exchanging information, and such collaboration is very important. We sometimes find evidence that the perpetrator is a Slovenian national. Or sometimes the Slovenian police can identify the perpetrator based on the evidence provided by the international cooperation. So without such information, it would be difficult to find out about such cases. Case 3 is from the Western Balkans, when you have the perpetrator from one country and the victim from the same or other Western Balkan countries. I was also involved in all of these cases. So we were informed from another country of the Western Balkan that a child from Slovenia was exploited, or vice versa. And by working together, we can maybe identify the identity of the perpetrator or the offender. And we can be very successful in investigating and in processing the crime and protecting the victim. In the cases of investigation, we often find out that we have one offender who is connected to other offenders in the region, and we of course have to notify the relevant national authorities of other Western Balkan countries about this. In all of the child abuse cases, it is of course necessary to act swiftly, especially when we suspect or know that the abuse is being carried out at this instant. In such case, we need to act quickly, and it is of essence to provide the relevant information to foreign authorities so that we can prevent the child from being repeatedly victimized. One of such joint actions is the Say No campaign that we already mentioned. The fight against sexual abuse of children online and also in the physical environment is a priority of the EU and all the EU institutions. And it's also one of the main priorities of Slovenia during its presidency of the Council of the EU. During the presidency, we have been and will still be highlighting the importance of the fight in this area and the importance of international cooperation. We want to have many discussions about the abuse, and we want to have the efficient response from national authorities. So one of the goals of our presidency is to have this connection in the Western Balkan region in this common fight against crime. To summarize, talking about fighting against borderless crime, is important to have an efficient investigation providing protection to the victim as a priority. In order to do this, we will need to have joint training, the exchange of information, so that we can carry out joint preventive campaigns in order to show that we are together in this fight against the sexual abuse of children. A proof of this was also the video that was shown in the beginning of this presentation. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. So the message that I want to share with you, that there are no borders on the internet, and because of this, we need to join our forces to reach really higher goals. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tekavec, for your presentation. It was very insightful. And of course, everything is true, all of the details that you've shared. I think it is now right that we take a look at the questions that were asked, so we would make good use of the couple of minutes that are left. First, a question from the foreign participants. They want to know whether the Slovenian police uses standardized proceedings for investigating child sexual abuse, for investigating child sexual exploitation and the protection of victims. So is there a specific procedure, and whether this is publicly available so that other investigators can take a look at it? Thank you very much for your question. I think this is the right question for today's topic. The police officers are being trained in the area of sexual exploitation of children. We have specific trainings for this, and we also invite domestic or foreign experts in this field to such trainings. And based on these trainings, we then carry out investigations. The international training workshops are very important because it is there that we obtain all the necessary knowledge to lead an efficient investigation. The procedures that we carry out within the police are internal. But of course, this is the right question, because at the round table, we will be presenting the manual or a manual which also involved the police. And this handbook is an important tool which will assist us in investigating such crime. Thank you very much. Yes, we will be talking about the development of this handbook and also how it can be used as a tool by the investigators in practice. Maybe we have time for another question. You said that there is different legislation across the Western Balkan countries when dealing about sexual abuse of children. However, the perpetrators across the world are working in the same manner. And also the methods of police are similar. What would it take for the Slovenian police so that the international cooperation would be even easier? Also in the field of legislation, do you maybe have any suggestions on this topic? Yes, within the EU and across the world, primarily within the EU, there is a lot of development in the area of legislation, particularly aimed at reducing the child sexual abuse material online. Not only videos, but also live streaming. Personally, I think that with a better international cooperation, we can have success. Of course, some countries have different legislation and you need to adapt to this. However, we have some joint tools and they are open to everyone. And this is what inspires us to fight efficiently against crime. But I would like to highlight the exchange of information on the operative level, because such information you cannot have successful cooperation regardless of the legislation, but we need to have cooperation on the legislative level and operative level, and also on the level of prevention and also training. Thank you very much, Mr. Tekavec.